everybody. Thank you for attending today's session on using student devices in the classroom. Due to technical difficulties, this is a re-recorded version of the live webinar. In the original version, Jamie Vandegrift was our guest speaker. We'll be filling in for her during this re-recording. Using student devices in the classroom today. And let me just tell you a little bit about Jamie. Jamie is Sarah Hart Mentor's instructional technology specialist, facilitated learning with technology to students and teachers for over 9 years, and prides herself on being grounded not in all that is new and shiny in technology, but rather what truly benefits our students and 21st century learners. She earned her specialist degree from the University of West Georgia in instructional technology media and also holds certification in instructional technology in addition to her elementary teaching certificate. Jill Hobson, I'm a member of the ClassFlow user engagement team. I am a former educator. I served as director of instructional technology, and we are asking folks to get involved in our webinar today. We'd love for you to consider reaching out to us on Twitter at @ClassFlow and use our hashtag to tell us more. Learn ClassFlow. And we're going to start diving in, and to begin with, I want to point out to you that if you are connected as a student, you are able to see the content that I am presenting from the teacher screen, and you'll be able to just follow along in student screen and keep up with what's happening. Now we're talking about what is ClassFlow, and you have a green pull tab on your screen. You can go ahead and pull out that green pull tab, and that will allow you to see more information. ClassFlow is an instructional delivery tool, and it's really designed to take advantage of whatever kind of devices might be in the classroom. And it's extremely engaging. There's lots of interactivity available. It'll simplify planning for teachers and a great way to conduct formative assessment. We'll be seeing a little bit of what ClassFlow is capable of as we go throughout today's session. The purpose for today's session is really to talk about effective ways to use student devices in the classroom. And sure, we want to point out that when we have devices, it's not about just doing the same old thing, rather going to places that were not previously possible without that technology. So when you get started with devices, if it's new for you, this may be the first time you've had this many different devices available in the classroom, whether you're in a one-to-one situation or in a situation like Jamie's where you have Chromebooks available, or in a BYOT situation where students are bringing in their devices. You might be going from having just your computer and the presentation at the front of the room to suddenly having 20, 30 devices in the room. It can be a little bit overwhelming to figure out how to manage when you have so much in your room. So Jamie and I want to share a few ideas for you on things that you can do to really help with the management of those devices. So here are a few. One of them is, rather than you as the teacher taking on the ownership of making sure every kid knows what to do with the device, use the each one teach one model, and that is you as the teacher teach a student, that student then teaches a student, and so on and so on. Now, see that you have enough devices and a lot of students, and that you want to kind of expand each one teach one into like teaches 5 and then they teach 5, so that it is a little more manageable. Another thing we want to consider is that some students can get in this mode of going into sort of an automatic helplessness, where when they have a problem, they don't try to solve it themselves. And of course, we want to really empower students to have the perseverance to figure out their own solutions. Rather than you being the sole point of knowledge in the classroom and everything coming to you, we would suggest to you that you use the strategy of ask, 3 than me. And what that means is that students should ask 3 other people before they come to the teacher. They need to have tried to solve that problem on their own before they for your expertise. One other strategy I wanted to share has to do with one of those points in the lesson where you really need everybody to be in the same place at the same time. For you to have to walk around and try to see all the devices in the room can really be a problem because you have downtime and that loss of teaching moment while you're checking on everything. So engage your students, have them be part of the process, and use the look left and look right process. So I'll say, okay, look to your left and make sure the person on your left is where they need to be. If not, let's help them get where they need to go. All right, look to your right, check the person on the right. Are they where they need to be? If not, let's help them get where they need to go. And that way we can help distribute the management of those tools within the classroom. So let's now talk about some other tips for student devices. And one is to make sure that you've got really clear expectations. When you're talking about what you want to do, you need to make sure that you use language that is absolutely crystal clear to kids, that you always have activities that really get kids engaged and involved, because a lot of times what happens at that moment is they tend to go and start using the device as a distraction tool rather than a learning tool. A really good strategy when you're trying to get things done, and not everything in the classroom is going to be done with technology, is to use that lids up, lids down, or devices up, devices down as a way of making sure that kids are paying attention. Know where those devices are. And quite frankly, if you have a chance to have kids keep the device in sight, you can tell whether they're using it or not. It might be better they keep that device in the top corner of their desk where you know what's happening, as opposed to saying, you know, put it in your desk or put it in your pocket because, what's on then? Technology does require differentiation. Everybody's not going to be able to get to information in the same way, particularly if you have different device types in your room. Some devices may be able to access a certain website or use a certain app where others may not be able to. So making sure that you are aware of that and you have contingency plans based on it. It's important for you to know how those devices in your classroom work. Now, that's if devices are provided in your school. If they're in a situation where there's BYOT and students are bringing in devices, then we have to expect students to come in knowing how their own device works. What you can do is group students together based on the type of device they're using, so then they can help each other solve problems. And anything you can do to make your life easier and the lives of kids easier, like go ahead and bookmarking websites so kids don't have to try to type them in, or using single sign-on when it's available so they don't have to log in again and again and remember all the different usernames and passwords. Even having one to go to find the resources they need for the day instead of having to look in one application here and then go over to another application there, which causes confusion and leads to more opportunities for kids to be off track. It's a great idea to try to keep the kids together in the same place. So now let's talk about that very first moment when you're trying to get students involved in using devices in the classroom. One of the things that happens is there's some hesitation because we all know that devices outside the classroom are tending to be used more for distraction and goof off, and things are not connected to learning. So we want to reposition devices in the classroom as a learning tool, not a goof off tool. And one of the ways that you can start that conversation is by having students be part of the process. Have them talk about how they can use their device for learning. Are there apps they use? Are there strategies that they have for different things within their device. Some use the calendar as a way with keeping up with homework, or another student may use the note function to remind themselves of things that they need to take care of. It's also an interesting idea, and I've seen teachers do this, to have a wall or an app board, have a list of certain resources that students should be using during the time when they are using devices. So you can keep that at the forefront of what's going on in the classroom. One other thing, it's okay to start small and grow from there. You don't have to start out with the first time you're using devices doing some thing that lasts the entire class period and involves multiple sites and multiple tools. Consider doing something for the first few minutes, like asking students to share ways they use their device. And that's the one thing that you talk about together during that first opportunity. So what we want to do now is actually stop and ask you as participants on this webinar today, hey, what are you doing with your device for learning? I'm going to send you a WordSeed poll, and it'll just have a text box in the middle of the screen where you can type in your ideas, things that you're thinking about as ways that you can respond or learn with your device. I'd love to know what some of your ideas are. I'm going to pull up our poll results so you can take a look at these as they're coming in and talk about some of the ideas. Yeah, using a device for maps is an excellent way to go, because what we're doing is using it to gain information that we used to have to go to a bunch of different places to get. Some students will find that it's a great research tool, and I think as a teacher, if you can keep referring them back to when they don't know the answer to something to trying to research it, that's fantastic. Video options, yep, using the calendar, those are fantastic ideas too. Wonderful. Thanks, this is great. Appreciate all the ideas you have. Go ahead and stop that poll, and we'll proceed into our next section. And then we're going to talk about some learning strategies. So one of the learning strategies we want to talk about is back channeling. And some of the ideas that Jamie had presented during our webinar include the idea of having a hashtag that the school uses and then encouraging teachers to the hashtag or share through the hashtag. Share what kinds of learning are happening in the building, what instructional ideas, and you might even get a reward for that, like a Dean's Pass for a Dean's Day. And having a hashtag that can be used for sharing across the district or collaborating with other people across the district is a really great idea. It's a way to get that community of learners growing and to encourage what's going on within your school or school district, and to find that you have other people of like minds. Or if you're just trying to get started, that's a great source of ideas and resources and support. Another thing that you might consider doing is using that idea of a hashtag as a way to connect to other classrooms around the world. What a great way to have kids get involved in a more global learning aspect if you have that opportunity to have the sharing of what's going on in your learning with other students in other places. So one other thing I wanted to share about back channeling that I've seen happen is using back channeling as a way to teach something that students love, and that is multitasking. So they think that they can do multiple things at the same time, and maybe what you want to do is create a situation where you can channel some of that. So I saw this example in a high school where the class, this was a language arts class, they had read King Lear, and after that the teacher was showing the movie version of King Lear, and she was using a chat application to have students in that talk about and compare and contrast what the differences were and the similarities were between the actual text and the movie version. And the teacher was able to watch that as the movie was playing and kind of guide conversations like, now watching this next scene, how does the set differ from what you had in your mind's eye when you were reading the scene in King Lear? How does that costume compare to what you think of in the traditional story? It really is a cool tool to make students feel more engaged. There are lots of opportunities to do that in your classroom. By the way, Clo has a great chat feature that you might consider using for just that purpose. So also talk about active participation. And we've talked about this in a couple of different ways, but now I want to point it out with regard to some of the features that are available in ClassFlow. Class has something that is called an activity. There are 7 different activity types, and you can see those different activity types on your screen right now. And the thing about this is you don't have to be a big guru in order to make one of these activities. Basically, all you need are the terms you want kids to learn and the definitions, or maybe the picture that matches with a word. Whatever the things are you want kids to know, that's all you need to have and to build one of these activities. I think what we need to do now is I'm going to actually send out an activity that you can try out. Come across your screen and you'll be able to check that out. Now, activities do come with a little sound in the background, so you may enjoy the sound or you may choose to mute it. And it's called the timeline activity. So I had to have the date and the months, and then what I did was found pictures to match up with those so that students would need to try to match the picture to the time. So I'm going to take this picture and I'm going to try to put it in the right place. If I do, it's going to snap into place. Whereas if I grab the wrong image and try to snap it into place, it will pop right back. And that's the formative feedback, folks. We're letting students have the opportunity to really learn as they engage and interact. And this is super simple to build. It's something you would really enjoy doing. Like that. And students are able to move the timeline and add things as they go. I'm going to give just a second to try it out, see how activity works. There is a timer that's kind of showing how much time students have had working on that and getting a score. So there is a little bit of a sense of a game approach, which also will probably be very appealing to your students. I'm going to move on now, and we want to talk about badging. And this is really an area where Janie was able to talk about some of these that badging really helps with students. And one thing is that when we are working with students in the classroom, you know, there are a lot of times when we are giving out scores on assignments, and it really only tells one kind of information about what's going on with students. And what badging does is gives you a way to recognize everything that students do. For instance, if a student has gotten something wrong, but they keep persevering and to find the right answer, that would be worthy of badging as a way of saying, good try and thank you for learning past the mistake that you made. It keeps kids incentivized to keep on trying and keep on learning. It's a great amount of insight into what kids have done in the classroom. It tells me more about the whole student, and that record is so useful. Also allows kids to set goals for things that are more than just the academic side of things. It's a great way to give meaningful feedback on lots of different areas and still connecting students to learning. Now, one of the things I would say about badging, too, is that it's kind of another level of gamification. Kids can feel like they're leveling up as they earn badges, and they can kind of keep up with badges they're getting. Now, ClassFlow does have a badging feature within it, and awarding of badges, and it's always available to you within ClassFlow. I'm kind of pointing out at the icon, trophy icon for badges. And other thing that's really kind of cool to know is that ClassFlow has an app called ClassFlow Moments. It is for parents. You can invite your parents of your students to join in, and they will be notified when a student receives a badge. And just think, you know, for many of us who have been parents and had conversation as kids come home, what did you do in school today? Nothing. This gives you a point of conversation that you really can start conversation and expand upon from the moment students are there. It gives insight into what kids are learning and doing in school. Another fantastic learning strategy is having students create something that shows they're learning. What you talk about here is, rather than necessarily having kids answer questions or take an assessment, having them create something using their device. Devices have so many possibilities for creation. You're able to do things either in ClassFlow or out of ClassFlow, because we have a particular type of poll called creative response, and it allows students to take advantage of any camera that might be on their device, so they could take a picture of something, they could find a picture and upload it, they might use the other tools that are included, might be the pen, the eraser, the highlighter, shapes, text, all of the tools. Things that we were sharing is even the youngest of students, first graders, who are coming in and being given a creative response poll to draw a picture, students figure out those tools very quickly. It's very intuitive for them to find their way in and get going. And of course, it'll be great for all ages of kids. I think now's the time when we need to have you try the creative response poll. And to do that, I'm going to ask you to share an idea with the team. So is it something you either learned in today's session, or maybe a way you've been using devices in your own classroom, a strategy or a tip that you could share with the other participants? So a moment to go in and explore using the creative response tools and sending back your responses. Do at this point is I'm going to pull up the responses as they're coming in, and I'll be able to take a look at those with you and share some of the ideas. So, yes, that devices up and devices down is a very powerful management tool in the classroom. I've seen it used from the youngest children to the oldest children with great success. Oh, Bridges, yes, absolutely, a fantastic tool. I think you're going to really enjoy that. Faster than me, fantastic. Yep. These little management tools are something that kids can get in the routine of using, and it makes things easier in the classroom. All right, yep, and the look left and the look right. And I love that you're using the tools as part of this and responding with the tools. Alrighty. So at this point, as we get ready to bring this webinar to a close, there are a few pieces of information that I do want to go ahead and remind you of. And the first thing is that with ClassFlow, you always have access to our amazing support team. I want to encourage you to use it. So everywhere within ClassFlow, no matter what page you're on, you're going to see the question mark in the little green circle up in the upper right corner of your screen on the title bar, and we will encourage you to use that as a way to communicate with our chat team. They're available all the time, and they'll be glad to answer questions as you started. Now, another thing you may want to be noticing is that right next to that green question mark is a white triangle. And when you click on that, you're going to have access to our help videos. All of the videos are very short, 1 minute or less, so they're quick and easy to get to and quick and easy to sit through. And the videos that you'll see when you go to that triangle will depend on what part of ClassFlow you're in. So go right now while I'm presenting, then the videos are going to help me with how do I present ClassFlow. If I'm building a lesson, then those ideas will be in there to help me build a lesson. If I start a new activity, those are going to help you with starting a new activity. We do hope you'll join us for future sessions. Please join us for the next webinars coming up. On October the 18th at 3 o'clock, we have a ClassFlow desktop webinar. And October the 25th, we'll have a Getting Started with ClassFlow webinar at 6 p.m. Please register and join us for these upcoming webinars. And let me just remind you, we'd love for you to get social with us. So please get on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and connect with us and share with us what you're doing in your classroom. We'd love to have your feedback. Your feedback is so important to us, and it does drive what we do within these sessions and in future sessions. So take a moment, please, to go ahead and complete the feedback form that is embedded within the card. You'll be able to do it right within ClassFlow. You won't have to go anywhere else. You're filling that out. I'm going to go ahead and bring this web recording to a close. Thank you. Have a great day.